Things are more calm than I'd heard then. Indeed, I suspect you've heard things from those who do not see any need for us to have interests outside of Britannia. The truth is that under my consulship and prior proconsulship, the legacy of Rome has been faithfully upheld. Does the Senate at least know about all this? The Senate likes to claim you are their little baby in order to contrast your achievements with mine. They don't like having two consuls, and they see themselves as being above the law enough to be vocal about such nonsense, and they really hate the idea of having 4 consuls. Not to mention 2 emperors if we are to claim allegiance to the remnants of the old empire. Your familial ties probably make them very uncomfortable. Yes, you've been paying attention all this time then. The Senate will barely let me speak anymore, even though I have control of all the forces in Britannia. It's that impeachment power they have. It holds both of us back. I don't think they want to impeach me. But if it wasn't an option, just think of what you could do. Your troubles in Italia would be over if you could recapture the north, but they won't have any of it. And your requests for more forces? I think suddenly people would listen if you actually had some legal authority. Perhaps, but neither you nor I are in a position to overcome the Senate's powers, so your dangerous fantasies may as well be kept private. Now I'm sure this isn't a social call given the secrecy of your arrival. What was it you actually wanted? Fine, look. I don't have permission from the Senate, and I know one consul can't command another, but I need your help. Oh, this should be interesting. First, what can you offer me in return? Nothing. Well, maybe something. Okay, forget everything that's happened, and hear this only as a plea from me to a hero. I need you to save my son. Hello and welcome back to Fields of Mars. Last time we saw the conclusion of that massive battle against the Sassanids, where we ended up winning once Constance's army came to destroy everything, although Constance himself narrowly escaped with his life. The Sassanids in defeat still proved to be quite aggressive, pushing all of their armies up to attack Tremontium. They were quite easily able to win the battle. We did a last stand where we tried to reduce their strength a little bit so it would be easier to finish them off. And we also saw battles against rebels in the western part of the empire, including a battle at Turinum against some rebels who were sorely outmatched by our garrison. Then Constans and his son Septimus had to destroy a siege at Constantinopolis, which was no problem, and Constans went on to annihilate all of the Sassanid invasion armies. Now Julianus needs to go after the Caledonians in southern Britannia after sneaking back from his little Mediterranean holiday. That's not going to be too much of a problem, of course, because that army's already been damaged in battle. It's taken winter attrition. It takes even more attrition running through that swamp to try and escape him. He is just going to go around it rather more cleverly, and he can come in for an auto-resolve, which is going to be super easy. So that will wipe them out. It won't destroy the Caledonians as a faction because they have a full army in Iberia roaming about the place. But it does mean that now Britannia is under complete control. All of the British Isles have a single government, there are no hostile armies in the territories, and public order is generally all very good. So Britannia now sees pretty much complete peace under our new administration. Now, it's bad news for the Eastern Roman Empire. They're once again coming under siege at their capital from the Eastern powers, and we get an interesting development in our relationship with the Western Roman Empire. They ask for trade, so that's a very good sign. It seems they're warming to us now, perhaps realizing that we are perhaps a step above them in terms of maintaining the stability of the empire, and they do want to get in with us and join us perhaps one day. On the Sassanid front, I decided to start preparing for a new offensive. Our armies are pretty much at peak condition at the moment, and I've also unlocked the ability to recruit new forces. I've got a cohort barracks, so I can recruit some of the lesser Roman-style troops, which will help top up our armies here, ready to go on and try and punish the Sassanids for all the defeats we've dealt them recently. Now, Tullus has to make some decisions. He's been given a request, of course, to go and save the Emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire specifically, but the only thing he's really going to be interested in personally is perhaps saving the people of the Eastern Roman Empire, who are under a lot of pressure. They only have 2 territories left, and both of those territories are under siege. The nearby one is under siege by the Gepids, and I'm basically looking here to evaluate what the cost would be of going on an offensive against the Gepids to save that province. The Gepids, annoyingly, kind of border pretty much all of our Mediterranean territories here. They have the ability to attack anything, and they also don't seem to be at war with the Huns, who are stuck up there behind them. So I thought that might be why they're not bothering with us, because they're fighting the Huns, but apparently not. The Huns are just doing their own thing, which is nothing as far as we're concerned, probably just destroying minor factions out there. Also noticed that Hispania have come back. There's another rebellion against the Western Roman Empire over there. They weren't so eager to just join in with our empire, though, as it turned out. I ended up moving on and putting off the decision with Tullus, and we saw a rebel attack at Turnum once again. I didn't want to fight this because we'll end up in an infinite loop of fighting battles at Turnum if we actually do the fights here. So it was balanced. I thought I'd just take the auto-resolve and try and win, and we do manage to win with just a close victory. And that will put off this decision as well, because the rebels will come back, and we'll probably still have to fight them at some point, but we've just delayed that. And if anyone was wondering, that guy Tranquillus, who I had defending the islands, is still working hard, constantly putting down rebellions on the islands, and because they appear on different islands every time, he's just sailing all over the place, constantly taking them out with a small army, so nothing too much to pay attention to there. So here's the situation with the Gepids. They're still besieging the Eastern Roman Empire, and there's also a rebellion in the same province. So overall, these people seem to be in big trouble. And once again, I'm just evaluating the situation and trying to think what would happen if we declared war on the Gepids to go and save them. They do have territories just to the north of Constance's territory here. But of course, Tullus isn't too interested in Constance's territorial concerns, as far as he knows, it's all going fine. So I decided to basically move over to Tarentum, where we can put to sea and start sailing out to go over towards Greece. We don't actually need to make a decision right now, because it's going to take us a couple of turns to get to even the nearest Eastern Roman Empire settlement. So we'll just go towards them and again see how things develop, and then we'll declare war and start hostilities at the last possible minute, just in case there's any way to avoid it. Now back to Constance and Aurelianus, I noticed that the Sassanid army just to the south wasn't inside the settlement there. It's standing outside it, which means I can besiege the settlement and then attack the army with one of my armies, which will cause the reinforcements from the settlement to not join the battle and be a really easy win. Unfortunately, it's completely foiled by the fact that Aurelianus has lost all his movement points to some agent spam, because he is surrounded by agents up there. So that plan had to be called off right away. Maybe next turn we'll be able to do it. Very annoying, and we can't really combat these agents because there are just so many of them, and there's never a chance for our agents to level up and take them down. So we're just tolerating this, and we also need to go back anyway and take out that rebel army forming near Constantinopolis. It's mad. Every guide we consult says a different thing, suggests different routes, different directions. One says we're 10 miles away, another says 100. I like to think they aren't all just stupid, given the history of this place, you know. So clearly they wish to toy with us. A dangerous game, for Constance simply kills those who seem nefarious. A fact I personally keep in mind constantly whenever he's around. But it's not even him we should worry about. Our enemies have deep pockets and hands all over our empire. We win every battle, still they raid and posture and sabotage at will without punishment. And the people do not at all stand in solidarity with their defenders, instead choosing to rise up and make it even worse. As I said, it's mad. Our attack against the Sassanids can now go ahead. The army that was standing outside actually just ran away, so no problems here whatsoever. We can besiege the settlement. It has a full stack inside it, but you can see from the balance bar that that means nothing. It's all the pagan band, the absolute trash spear, or not even spear, pitchfork unit that basically does nothing. So we'll hack through them and take negligible losses to capture this settlement. Now, I wasn't sure exactly what my plan was here. I wanted to take it to bottleneck Sassanid invasions before they could reach Thracia, but I had the opportunity to liberate a new faction here, and I took that right away, because this will now buffer us from the Sassanids and actually reduce the chance that they will bother invading us at all, because they can't go through territory they have access to. So now, with this new faction of Asia created, Constans is going to rush back into Thracia to start replenishing his troops from the new auxilio we can recruit, and Aurelianus had enough movement points to go after those rebels near Constantinopolis. I could let the rebellion grow to get more public order, but with the possibility that 4 Sassanid stacks or even Hun stacks could appear at any moment, I didn't want to have anything on the back burner like that. We're going to keep things clear by taking them out right away, and we'll try and control public order by garrisoning these armies into the cities, and generally improving Thracia yet further. Now, the Gepids, who did have the Eastern Roman Empire under siege here, seem to have disappeared and been replaced by some rebels. I don't know if this rebel army broke the Gepid siege or whether they just gave up the siege and then the rebels snuck in to take advantage of that. But either way, it means that Tullus can no longer go to save the Eastern Roman Empire there because they are not there anymore. They do still, of course, have their capital down in Crete, which is in a lot of trouble itself and has been for a very long time. All of the Eastern empires are reluctant to bother taking it. They just wait around for the Eastern Roman Empire to build up forces and then destroy them, so just leaving them in a diminished state there. So Tullus can sail down to get closer and perhaps look for an opportunity to come and rescue the island and let the empire build back up again. We have to be super careful because there are fleets in the area, and if an enemy fleet finds Tullus's transport ships, he's going to be in huge trouble, of course. This turn we're safe because we're out of movement range of everything, but we'll have to watch out for that. Now, I cut out most of what Uther's doing. I thought I'd just put this in to represent it. Basically, every 1 to 2 turns there's a rebellion in one of the provinces that Uther is looking out for. And we're just taking them out every time they spawn. He's having a great time. And really, that's just going to go on forever. We can't really deal with public order there, so it'll just keep happening on and on. Now, super bad news for the Eastern Roman Empire. Aaron finally decides to go and actually take their capital, which they do with ease. So suddenly they now have no territory, and they have basically no forces as well. They've got 2 navies and an army, which isn't going to do much because they have no actual units in them. We get an offer of marriage from the Gaetulians who wanted Constance's daughter, and he just throws that offer out immediately. He's looking for someone much more suitable, perhaps much more Roman as well. So now in the next turn, with Asia being formed to protect us from the Sassanids, it felt a bit safer to finally go over and take out Serdica, which is an Atropatane settlement. It's just been sitting back here, doesn't really pose a threat, but it does allow Atropatane to theoretically spawn a stack here if they started an army at this settlement, which would be nice and annoying, so we might as well take it out. The question now is what we actually do with it. This is a potential situation where a tactical raising might actually be valuable because we can't really hold the settlement very easily. But I decided in the end that I am going to go ahead and capture this and just try and hold it against the rebels, because this is a similar situation to Thessalonica, where because it's a walled city, it's very easy to hold. So you don't have to put too much effort in to hold it. And there is a desolate settlement in the province as well. So I could go and rebuild that in order to help control public order as well. The other faction in there is Dacia, who are hostile to us, but they are also Romans, so hopefully they'll be nice to us. So I was just looking at the situation with the Eastern Roman Empire, and it's pretty much gone. They have nothing left. They don't have enough forces to take another settlement. There's nothing we can do to help them. So because of that, Tullus is going to turn back. I wanted to get onto land because Aaron's navies were prowling about. So now on land we can be safe. And I decided what we could do instead is just go back and actually fight those rebels, because we do have a reason to take this settlement regardless of who it's owned by, because it's part of Macedonia, the same province as Thessalonica. So taking it will actually help us control our empire here. So that'll just give something for Tullus to do, and perhaps to shake off some of the guilt that he completely failed in his mission to help the Eastern Roman Empire at all. He will at least bring them under control of our powerful empire, which, while we think is a good thing for them, they might not. We'll find out. Now, I wanted to see how the family tree had changed after these events, and you can see that Julianus has lost a couple of his sons in the recent fighting. He's still got 2, and most importantly, he's lost his son, who was the emperor, and his wife has now taken over as an empress. But the empress of what? I don't know. Pretty much nothing. There's no territory, and probably only a handful of men. Less than 100 troops in the entire Eastern Roman Empire remain, so not much they can do with that. And they're even taking attrition because they now technically have no food supply, and we can't give them food because it just doesn't work like that. In the end-turn sequence, the Gepids not only destroy those rebels that I was going for, but they actually go and destroy the Eastern Roman Empire navy nearby. Very bad for them, and it does also mean that Tullus is going to have to rethink his strategy. Now he's trespassing in Gepid territory, which they won't like. And then we see Aaron go after some survivors of the Eastern Roman Empire here in the east, and that's pretty much it. They now have literally nothing left. There might be one unit somewhere, but it's really over for them. But before we can look into that, we have another rebellion to deal with. There's another battle at Turinum, and this time I thought I actually would fight it because the balance bar's in their favour. Their army is bigger than ours, and it has siege equipment, so I thought the auto-resolve might actually give us a loss here. So just for safety, we'll do this fight. I expect it's winnable, even with our very small force. The Senate likes to pretend that you do not exist. I wish to prove to you that I am not of the same mind of the Senate on that particular matter. I will march to Dyrrachium with the Senate's legions, and there secure you lands of great fertility. Were you to march in a similar fashion, we could share in this victory and make a symbolic gesture of unity to the people. He had me convinced until this gesture of unity nonsense. That is not what this is about, for him, I, or the people. But if he's willing to use his own men to conquer things for me, then so be it. I need to go, though, to get my name on it and all. Maybe those Dacian bigots will finally surrender once they see us conquering all the lands they keep insisting they have claims to. In the rebels camp, nothing too special about their strategy other than the fact they attack the other side of the town to the one they usually do, and this is actually an easier place for them to attack because the choke points are very wide, so they're going to have plenty of opportunities to get past the troops I've stationed here. You can see I've carefully put my troops right next to the tower so that as that melee goes on, hopefully the tower will drain some of the enemy's numbers, but they did decide to take advantage of the fact they can just go around me, but only with one unit, so a single unit of cav is going to start going around to hit some of my other units from behind potentially. Luckily I had one reserve unit that can go and deal with that. They've got a couple of other units attacking this other point, and I wanted them here to go over to the left where I've got my barricade with the Legio set up on top of it. Unfortunately, none of them fell for the barricade bait. They're all just going to attack this regular unit, which again can't actually fill the choke point it's in, but they were kind enough to just go and attack it from the front. We took out those cavalry who went round behind us with some Legio, and that's basically shifted the balance bar from being quite far in their favour to now being equal. So that unit will now go to support the first unit we saw. Meanwhile, the enemy's heavy infantry here are in trouble because I brought the guys over who were on the barricade to just come and throw their darts at point blank range anyway by just standing right behind them, and they're not going to react. They'll just take all those darts, and once we're out of darts we will just run in for the rear attack. We've already killed most of them, which is great because that unit would have beaten the Legio on its own. It is a superior unit, but now surrounded it will be in big trouble. We'll also soon be surrounding the other units fighting underneath the tower. They do have some hurlers over there on the right, which are potentially very dangerous. Luckily, they can't see any of our units right now because their own units are blocking the line of sight, so they're not doing any damage. And now our units who have defeated that one heavy infantry unit can just swoop around to hit all this stuff at the back. They sent in their Cairo Ballista crew. They didn't even use the Cairo Ballista, just sat at the back of the map, and then eventually the crew came in for a melee, which of course didn't work, and we arrived to surround all the units fighting the initial unit as well. So basically now we cleared this up, you can see the balance bar goes to be 100% in our favour. Still haven't taken out those slingers though, who came in for melee too, and they held out a surprisingly long time, seemingly thinking the battle could still go their way at this point. Eventually we managed to convince them that they should retreat, but it was far too late. They retreated after being basically overwhelmed, so most of them will now die in the attempts to escape. We do want to continue to fight on for a tiny bit because the rebel army can just survive and come back if we don't destroy it enough, so I pursued the enemy for a bit to try and get as many of them as I could, but I realised the tower was probably killing half my own men here, and some of the enemy were managing to escape, so I just ended it. It's a very cheeky heroic victory, nice and easy. Luckily enough, the result was what I wanted there. We killed basically everything here except the general's unit, which managed to escape somehow. But luckily our troops decide, even though I clicked to ransom him, to just execute him anyway. So there we go. That gets rid of that rebellion. Very nice. So there'll probably be another one coming soon enough, but we'll have our new building to increase the garrison very soon. And here's confirmation that the Eastern Roman Empire have been completely defeated. So That's the loss of a very important ally right there, and perhaps more symbolically the loss of the direct lineage from the Eastern Roman Empire, meaning the empire has not been saved. But you could now argue that we are the Eastern Roman Empire, so hopefully Constans will be able to make that marketing play work out. He's also interfering with Julianus, who's trying to gain more control over the Senate right now. Constans himself also trying to gain some control, and that apparently fails so badly that he ends up losing control, so Constans being even further ostracized. And this is basically reducing our faction's overall control over the administration, which has various negative and positive effects, which we'll just have to balance out. There's nothing too major right now, but we can see here that Julianus has lost all of his family, the family he married into, but his family nonetheless, they've all been taken out by the defeat of the Eastern Roman Empire. So he's managed to keep his wife somehow, but all of his children are gone. Aurelianus is also married into the Eastern Roman Empire, but he's managed to keep his child, I guess because the child's illegitimate, so he's gotten away with it in that respect. She's technically part of our faction. So anyway, that is bad news, of course, for both of the brothers and for Constans and Aurelianus tactically, because it means there are now going to be more enemy forces free to focus on them. I also noticed that Constans' son, Septimus, has managed to get 2 illegitimate children already, and he's not influential enough to get married. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but it means he can't have legitimate children. He'll just have to continue on. So now I was turning my attention to have a look at the Gepids. The Gepids, of course, have been moving in on our territory here, and it'd be really nice to potentially deal with them right now, because I noticed they've put 2 of their main armies out to sea to go and take out the Eastern Roman Empire, and while those armies are sitting at sea, they happen to be in range of Theodosius and our main fleet, so we could take a nice engagement where we can bring an actual navy against the enemy's transport ships. At the same time, Tullus can't quite reach the settlement at Dyrrhachium, but he can get pretty close, perhaps close enough to bait the army inside out for a battle and take that out in the end turn sequence. And the final thing to consider is Constans' role in this equation, because Constans doesn't necessarily have anything to do in his own territory. Now that we've buffered up our borders down here, both with those rebels who are just ignoring us and with Asia, there's a decent chance we'll have a lot of warning before the Sassanids can attack us. So Constans could be free to move away from Thracia and start taking part in this campaign as Tullus requested for him to do earlier. The only way for him to reach the settlement this turn and make an attack simultaneous with the naval attack would be to go through Dacian territory, which requires military access. The problem with that is that they absolutely hate us because they were aligned against the Eastern Roman Empire. Us coming in and kind of saving it and helping them has really made them annoyed. But still, even without the ability to strike the settlement in the first turn of the war, the ability to take up potentially 2 of their armies seems like too much to pass by. In the darkest time for my family, I was betrayed. The foolish delays of the legions sent to rescue our allies resulted in not only the loss of the last in the line of emperors chosen by the gods, but the death of my own sons and daughters at the hands of the capricious Eastern weaklings. No word exists to describe the injustice done. Let all who live through this era simply recall that when one child of Britannia stabs the back of another, it shall be known as waiting with Tullus. And to insult our great state further, he followed his failures with an abandonment of his post in Rome to trade sweet nothings with the rogue consuls. By thus breaking his word with myself and the Senate, he shows that his reputation is but a facade on a man of dark opportunity. Before we commence any hostilities, we want to check the diplomatic situation. The Gepids are allied to the Allemans, who control Central Europe, so we don't want to disturb them. Luckily, they're also at war with the Western Roman Empire, so we can just join the Western Roman Empire's war over northern Italia, presumably, and this doesn't count as drawing in any allies to the conflict for whatever reason. So this basically means the Allemans will ignore the fact that we are declaring war on the Gepids, because technically we are just joining an existing war rather than starting a new one. So neither Tullus nor Constans can reach any Gepid targets right now, but they can prepare for it in a future turn. Right now the focus is going to be on this naval battle. Theodosius coming over to fight the 2 Gepid armies. I noticed that both are heavily damaged, and the first one contains most of the elite troops, so that's the one we'll want to focus on taking out the most. So as the fight gets started, our fleet will simply advance into theirs, and the balance bar swerves into their favour here on the battle map because they just have so many ships here. They're all transport ships though, and transport ships have weak hulls. It takes 2 shots from a siege ship to bring them down, and some of them start to sink immediately as the battle starts and our shots start coming in to destroy the leading ships in the enemy's fleet. They will still plough on though. The enemy's fleet formation is loosely spaced, big and wide, whilst ours is more compacted. This means the enemy is going to have a super easy time of actually surrounding this fleet. What we lack is melee ships or ramming ships to actually extend a long line. We're mostly just siege ships and archer ships which can't do much on their own and need the support of these melee focused ships. The ram ships are particularly powerful against transports because they actually kill them in one hit. So as they come in to just hit the enemy ships, the ship just goes down immediately. So we can get a few free kills again right at the start. And that's the enemy general actually being killed right there. One of the 2 enemy generals sinking right at the start. Fantastic news. Over here you can see another ramming ship coming in to support another ramming ship which was being boarded. The main weakness of a ramming ship is that after they ram, they're stationary for a few seconds and they can be boarded during that time, which removes all of their strength because they can't ram anymore. This onager crew very cheekily just sailing deep into our formation, our fire archers trying to set fire to that ship to get rid of it. Meanwhile, the siege ships will just continue on, firing into this big blob of ships at the front. There goes another unit. So basically the plan here is, I know the ramming ships aren't going to be very effective because they are going to get bogged down, but what I hoped by placing them in front of the siege ships to screen them was that we just block all of the enemy ships from getting towards us and then shoot them with the siege ships. It kind of worked, but not quite enough. We needed perhaps 1 or 2 more regular melee ships to hold the enemy off, because a couple of enemies started to get around and sneak through to fight with our siege ships here, and slowly but surely they're going to be able to take them out. So now time is not on our side. We need to get off as many shots as we can into this big traffic jammed blob of enemy ships and try and take them down. It's going to be difficult though, and our ramming ships don't really hold out for very long because the enemy can board them with multiple units at once. So you can see, like here, they just have billions of troops swarming over the ships and killing our marines. That marine was nearly in trouble, but luckily for him all the troops nearby disappeared ghostily, so he'll be able to get away with it. Not really sure what happened there. I guess they couldn't be bothered with jumping back to their own ship. But as you can see from the battle as a whole, the enemy are just kind of swarming over our formation and starting to overwhelm us. Theodosius, be he blind and in his late 60s, has still gone in for some deadly combat action with his marines, setting fire to a neighbouring enemy ship and then managing to jump back to his own ship with a bit of teleportation helping him out. He is blind after all, so he is the most powerful ship in our fleet and will be able to take out many enemy crews, but like the ramming ships, he's going to get bogged down and have difficulty actually finding targets. This burning ship set on fire by flaming arrows started rampaging through our back lines here, crashing into a couple of our ships at the back, and luckily for us, I don't believe Attila has mechanics where fires can spread between ships. I think earlier Total Wars might have, but this one doesn't seem to. Our ships get away with it. So that's 1 more enemy unit down, but we are losing ships very fast. We're pretty much out of everything now, down to just 1 siege ship, Theodosius, and a couple of other boats, just holding back the entire enemy fleet by delaying them for the most part. This archer ship trying to fight in melee against these enemy spearmen going to be going very badly, and friendly fire with trying to support them there, not going to really help either. Theodosius and his naval crew could be boarding enemy ships in order to try and take them out, but right now he's in a really unlucky situation. He's kind of stuck because there's a ship at either end of his ship, and that stops him not only from moving but from turning, and he's just stuck there, and all of the enemy's archers on the transports are slowly damaging him, killing his crew and dropping fire arrows onto the ship, which will eventually burn the entire thing. It's not looking good as the last of our ships are now attacked from all sides by the enemy fleet enveloping us completely. Theodosius' ship catches fire, and that's the final straw. The rest of our ships simply surrender at this point. It's a close defeat in the end, with Theodosius himself now in huge danger of drowning or burning. Not at all what we wanted from this first decisive engagement in the war, so didn't exactly go as planned, but perhaps we've damaged the enemy enough. The last members of the imperial family of Eastern Rome were now part of the ruling families of Britannian Rome, aptly symbolising the transfer of mandate to rule from the falling empire to the rising one. The official disbanding of the previous Roman government created a small power vacuum that Constance's administration was automatically assumed to fill. Once more the Eastern Empire could be ruled from the capital at Constantinopolis, but this time by the waveringly loyal cronies of the conqueror Constans, and by his son Septimus, the self-important governor with a political role unclear enough to expand into just about anything. All of this was theoretically still under the control of the Senate at Londinium, but in reality both sides pretended the other did not exist. So that's all for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see if we can continue this war with the Gepis a little bit better than we've started it in the next episode of Fields of Mars.